we gonna make June a pretty decent month. Let's go ahead and turn up. Dad's out here wilding out. It's like, what? The biggest pearl that I could probably give and drop off for parents is understanding that our jobs is to provide guidance, not control for our kids. Because we end up wanting to dictate their lives because of our experiences and how we came up. And then we end on trying to live our lives through our kids and not allowing them to experience and live life on their own. So we end up trying to control stuff, which really now hinders their growth, but then also hampers your relationship. Because at some point in time, the child's going to rebel against it. So I have come to a place where I have learned to plant seeds within my child and within my daughters, is to plant these seeds of wisdom and guidance, and then allowing them to make their own decision and choices, and taking my hands off of the outcome. Because some of us end up, like, I was just talking to OJ's wife just a moment ago before I came here, and she was saying that, you know, when a child does good, do we, let's see, here we go, let's see what we do. She said it like this: if you're a bad parent and your child does good, do you take credit but you're a bad parent? Or if you're a good parent and your child is bad, do you now do not take credit for what they do and they don't do? Because at the end of the day, we've got to understand they're people and they make their own choices. Our jobs as parents is to provide them the information to help allow them to make better choices than uninformed people would make. And I think that's probably the part in parenting that sometimes we don't always transition into. Because when they come into the world, our job is to protect them, feed them, groom them. We do all these different things where we're in control of what's going on with them, because they're not at a place or an age where they can make their own decisions that are going to be good. But then they become teenagers and young adults, and we need to transition from being that helicopter parent that is hovering over them, trying to control which way they go and what they do, but being more of an observing parent that just provides information and guidance to help them to make the decisions and choices that they're going to need to make. Because when they get older, we're not going to be there for all their choices and decisions that they make. So we got to be there while we can to guide them on their decisions, but not make those decisions and choices for them. And I think that's a transition that some parents have difficulty with.
Okay. You said something, you said if the child is turns out bad.
If you got a bad kid and you got good parents, that's like this. You grow up in a household where both of your parents are present. They both have good jobs and college education, but for some reason the kid ends up selling dope and getting into a gang. Now, does that mean that you were a bad parent and you didn't do the right things? Or is it just that the kid made the choice to be and do whatever they chose to for whatever that reason is, which is outside of the environment that you've created for them?
So I understand it. I understand it 100-fold. My question is this: what it brought me to, because I think it's a good question. But before I could answer that, or I would want someone to answer, I would want to know this: what qualifies you as a good parent? Who judges whether or not you're a good parent? Do you get to make the call and say I'm a good parent? Is it the kids? Is it the result of their life? Like, what's the qualifier there?
I don't know if there's necessarily like a standard what would be a qualifier, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's the kid and yourself. Because at some point, when you come to a realization that I'm not reliving my traumas through my kid, because I think that's how we start parenting. I know I started parenting that way, is that I didn't want to inflict what traumas and problems I had on my kid that I experienced. So that's what I worked to not do. But in turn, there were other things that came up. And that doesn't mean that I'm a good or a bad parent. It's just that we learn as we go. And the outcomes of it is not something that you can actually predict, because you don't know how that's going to turn out. And so the definition, or what you can say is a good or bad parent, is subjective to how the kid feels and that you feel about the job that you're doing.
Okay. So does it matter if you did your best?
Always. At some point in time, it does come to that, because we look at it like this. There are things that you have learned now at this current time as an adult that you look back and say, my mom and dad didn't know this. But they did the best that they could with the information that they did have.
What if your best wasn't enough?
Well, it was still the best that you could do. Because the thing about it is that the measure of what's your best is a personal situation. It's not something that somebody else can say, well, you're not doing your best. You can only assume what my best is, but you really don't know what my best is. That's still something that I have to come to terms with, to say that, yes, I know I'm giving my all, I'm putting in my best. So then, yes, I'm doing my best at that point in time. But nobody else can come up and say, you're not doing your best. Even if you're, let's say you go to school and you don't do great on a test, I don't do good on the test, that don't mean I didn't do my best. I might not have really put forth the best effort or studied, or I might not want to take the test. So I just fucked it off. But that doesn't mean I didn't do it. I don't have more or better to do. Or I could be. You know what I mean?
I get it. And I ask that question because I oftentimes, and I say this because I've had this conversation, with a lot of different gentlemen, and I always ask that question, and everybody's like, yeah. Doing your best matters. Doing your best matters. As a parent, that's all you can do, right? I get it. There's no blueprint. There is no, one size fits all method. There is no guarantee of success, right?
Correct.
And so I wonder if that's the case, and why do people even bother to say I did my best? You know what I mean? Is that something to make you feel better? Because you doing your best does not mean anything in most arenas in life. You know what I'm saying? I still got my ass beat, man. I did my best in biology class and I failed. Okay? I did my best, and my mama my best wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Okay? So she smacked hell out of me. Wop wop. You know what I'm saying? Get your shit together. Like, you need to be better. What your best is right now, that's unacceptable, man. And so, like, as a parent, like, how do you know what you're doing is acceptable or unacceptable, or if there is more that you can give or that you can do?
So the beginning of that, like, why that whole doing your best thing is even there is because there's always some kind of judgment that people are always judging or grading what you're doing. Because you got to think, if I'm not judging you or grading you, saying what's good, bad, what's your best, it doesn't even matter anymore, because I'm not grading you. But as long as there's some type of level that we're trying to obtain, and we feel that in order to do that you must pass this place, then we're going to grade you, because we're not saying, okay, you're not making the mark to be at this place. So that's where that whole I'm doing my best to try to get to this place is. Instead of folks just saying, you know what, if that's what feels good, that's right with you, or you feel the best in yourself in doing that, then okay. That's just like saying, like, your haircuts. There are days, I do a dope ass job. Yeah. I cut the shit out of that. That's a good thing. But then there's some days when you're like, that was a good cut, but it wasn't like all the way. But that's still like your personal thing right there.
But you.
But you feel good about. That's what I meant to say. You feel good about that cut. Like, you feel good when you do a dope cut. You like, oh yeah, I cut that shit real good. But then you like, I ain't feel so hot when I made that last cut. So it kind of reflected how you felt in the cut. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like that type of situation.
Well,
I feel because you feel good about it. So it's how you feel in the effort and work that you're actually completing.
So what I say is this, is that even when it comes to cutting, even though I'm doing my best, doesn't mean that you as a client or the person sitting in the chair getting their haircut is going to like it, or that it's going to turn out well. So I guess the reason I asked that, and everybody's like, yeah, it matters, because you said it. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It may make you sleep well at night.
Right.
To know, oh yeah, man, I gave it my best shot. But at the end of the day, like, what are you going to do if your best isn't enough? And my thing is, like, I think so many parents approach parenting as a shot in the dark, man. And I get it. Like I said, there ain't no manuals to this thing.
Yeah.
But what you can do, and I'd be curious to hear your response in terms of how you navigate this. I feel like you're a very liberal parent. How do you navigate this? But most parents that I ask this question to, like, hey man, how often do you check in with your kids to see what they need? And I get, at a certain age, you have a child. Okay, your child's 2 years old, 3 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old. They maybe can't articulate exactly what they need, but still, how often are you checking in with them to see if there's something that they want you to do that you're maybe missing out on? And so I don't think it has to be so much in the dark in terms of you doing your best, because people get you presents and gifts and they meant well. They did their best to get you something, and it's something that you completely don't like, don't use, don't this. Does that matter to you? Like, oh man, it's the thought that counts. No, I'm not going to use this shit. That matters too.
But see, but in that one, I look at it like this: if we have a relationship, when you go to get me a gift, you're not supposed to just pick me up any old thing from the store. Like, I got you a gift, because if you know me, you're going to get something that you know that I'm going to like. Like, I know you, and I'm like, okay, there are certain things about Josh I know. He's in the barbershop. He enjoys and loves it. He has his own business that he's doing. He's putting together. If I'm going to give him a gift, it's going to be around cooking. It's going to be something in the shop. It's going to be something that's going to go towards your interests and stuff, because in the time that we spent together, I've gained some knowledge and information in how to do something. If I just go pick up something random, does that really show that I really care about you, or did I just pick up something random?
So here's the thing. That's why I asked the question about doing your best, because I feel like a lot of stuff that parents do is well-meaning, but it's random. And it's like, okay, at some point, you could at least, maybe your children well enough and you understand some of the things that they need before they need them, right?
Yeah.
However, when you come to what you just said, the example for me, you can always ask me, hey, Josh, man, I would like to do something nice for you, man. Is there anything that you would like? Is there anything that you would need?
Yeah.
And now you can hit exactly what I want.
Right.
And so I asked that question because, like I said, we as adults will go to work. And if you're in any kind of, or ever have been in the supervisory position, managerial, leadership positions, or anything like that, at some point in your career, the people under you usually are able, if the organization is set up correctly, are able to give some feedback on your leadership, and give that feedback without consequence, without fear of, like, how's this going to go? And I just ask, like, good leader wants to know, hey man, am I meeting the needs that you have? Am I leading you like you?
Yeah. How do you do that as a parent?
How do you do that as a parent?
Well, for me, I've grown into this place because there's definitely been, I could say I've gone through a lot of different phases as a parent. Just life and stuff has kind of made me learn things differently and use different tools and mindsets And I think that's the biggest thing. It's your mindset that you have to adjust in it. But with my daughters now, I always come, I express how I feel, and then I always let them know that, hey, whenever you need to talk or you need something from me, let me know. My door is open. I make myself available to them to talk. And then I let them know that, hey, it's a safe environment for you to speak your mind within respect, because I don't want you in here cussing and wilding out like that. But come and talk to me and be straight. It's a whole lot better for you to be honest with me up front than to you to lie to me and then have to come back and backtrack, because I want to be able to trust you. So in order for us to have that relationship, we both have to be honest with one another, and then just building on that from there. There's going to be a phase in their life where kids are going through their hormonal teenage stage, and shit just don't seem right. And to me, as a parent, that is probably the hardest time in connecting, communicating, and understanding your child, because they're doing erratic, saying and thinking erratic stuff that just doesn't make sense. And so that point in time is when you got to really just step back and just drop these seeds and keep it moving, and don't take a lot of stuff personal. So I think that's one thing is Jewel. But to answer your question, like I said, I just open up the floor to them and let them know that I'm available to talk. And I just check on them, see how they're doing. And if they need to speak with me about stuff, then we'll go from there. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to tell you a quick story about, there was a time that me and my youngest daughter, some reason, she just seemed to be giving me the blues all the time for no reason. Like, there's something going on. So one day I just pulled her up and I said, hey, the way you treat me hurts me. Is there something going on that I don't know about? Did I hurt you, or did I not give you something that you needed? Or is there a problem that we can discuss and work out? So then we sat down and had a conversation about some of the things that she was feeling, that she felt like, Dad, you're being mean to me because you don't like me wearing these small shorts. Then I had to explain to her, this is why I tell you don't need to wear these shorts. This is why I say that you need to brush your teeth. This is why I tell you need to do your hair and present yourself when you go out in public. I tell her this. When we had that conversation, then she has an understanding. But it took the time, it took me to come to her to say, hey, what's going on? Is everything all right? Because I see that you're doing this and you're like this. Is there a reason for this, and what's going on? She cried, and then he opened up and talked, and everything's been kosher and great between the two of us since then.
Well, let me just say I commend you for taking that approach, because a lot of parents, they want that connection. They want their children to open up, but they don't necessarily, do enough things that facilitate that. And one of those things is, you said, hey, man, I went to her as the adult. She's acting up, or she's acting erratically. She's not acting or behaving in the way that she normally would behave towards me. So I'm not taking it personal. I'm not going to punish her. I'm not going to, oh, you need to get your stuff together, girl. What you dealing with, blah, blah, blah. You said, hey, man, I went and asked her. And I told her, expressed to her, hey, how you're treating me makes me feel a certain kind of way. I think that's really powerful, man. Because you show her you at that point. Now she understands that, oh, man, I can hurt daddy too. Daddy ain't just big and strong and, just this, and this. Oh, no, daddy got feelings too.
Yeah.
You know what's going on. Did I do something to you? And you allowed her, and you held the space for her to be able to express that. And that's the point I'm getting at, is because it's like, you can feel like, okay, well, maybe she just needs to go, play with some other kids, or maybe she needs to go do this. And you can come up with a lot of things and be well-intentioned in the stuff that you're coming up with. And it might not amount to a hill of beans.
Right.
But when you go and you talk and you ask her, now you know how she's thinking. What do we all desire?
To be understood and be heard.
Understood, to be heard, to be seen. And so you go to her and you listen to her, and you understand her. Now you deepen that connection. And so I'm glad that you did that, because, you are in a very, very unique position in terms of being a, as everybody says now, girl dad, and so I'm sure most men will probably find it a whole lot easier to connect to their sons and things like that. Oh, yeah, well, my son, he's a boy, so I can do this with him. I can do that, How, but because that's definitely a way that you guys were able to connect. How have you been intentional about connecting with them and, speak to, I guess, the way that you try to operate, because I'm sure you're aware that you're the example, of manhood, of what a man looks like, and acts and how they function. And in some ways, your daughters they'll hopefully choose men that have some of these traits that you have. They're gonna reflect some of the stuff that you got, or that you do, or that you are. The mates that they choose are going to reflect some of those qualities. How are you intentional about connecting, and how are you intentional about what you show them, and how you act towards them in terms of that?
I think first is just understanding I am going to be the first male in their life, and that when they grow up, there's some input that I will have for the man that they choose to be with. And so in my thought process, I'm like, okay, I want to be able to show that I treat their mothers a certain way. I deal with problems a certain ways. And even when I'm communicating with them, I'm doing it a certain way. So they are establishing in their mind, this is the norm, or this is how a relationship could go. Because what I want them to have is a healthy relationship, healthy marriage. I want them to be able to communicate with their partner, whoever they're with, and I want them to be an asset in the message. Not an asset, but I want them to be a productive part within the marriage. I don't want my daughters just to be like, I got married, I got this man, and I could just sit on my ass and do nothing. I want my daughters to understand that this is something as a team we're working together to do together. This is you and I, not just a you and I just watch. This is a us thing. So in my mind, I'm talking to them about the partnership of a marriage and how we work together to build stuff. Like how you should help out with, if you guys are making a dream, how can you assist in that, and how he can assist you. So I'm having conversations with them about that part in the roles and positions that they can play within their relationship, and how their man should treat them. Because I know if I'm a shitty husband, man, to their mother, my wife, and this is what they see, they may think this is the norm, and then they may pick up a dude the same way. If I'm always yelling, hollering, and screaming at them, they may find that to be the norm. And as a dad, I ain't gonna want to watch no dude yell at my daughter. I ain't gonna want my daughter sitting in no dysfunctional relationship where they thinking arguing is the way that we communicate. So I have to present to them what will be a healthy relationship to my knowledge, and what has worked for me and what hasn't worked for me, and then having conversations with them that are appropriate to their age, to saying, hey, this is what I did wrong in my relationship. Learn from this so that you can make better choices in that. And so talking with like my oldest daughter, she's 20, so I have conversations with her about this, because I'm like, even though you're not at that stage yet, but I want you to be prepared when it comes time to it. I don't want this to be foreign, and I don't want you just picking up any old boy and old guy who's just, I show you a good time and spend some money, and I don't want you to be dazzled by that, but I want you to also look at the character of the person that you're with and seeing how and who they are before you make such a commitment to be with somebody that you find out is actually a volatile person that's really not going to assist or make your life better, but could actually end up damaging him. So in connecting with them is just talking with them about the realness of a relationship and how to move forward within that, and then just being an example to them of what kind of man that I would like to see them with.
Okay. So I think you touched on a lot of stuff, and I love the humility that you said, hey man, you approach and you have age appropriate conversations, but you share with them, hey man, here's where I could have made a better decision. Here's where I could have did this better, in my relationships and things like that. Now, with the 20-year-old, and I mean, even with the age, I don't know how you approach this, but we were venturing toward this in another conversation, and I'm curious because we didn't really get to go down that path. Everybody always says, "Hey, man, I want to teach my daughters how they need to be treated," right? And that's all well and good, all well and good. Yeah, you should help them understand and establish, a standard in terms of how they should be treated by the opposite gender, right?
Right.
And I get it. Now, as a man, I'm curious, do you speak to your daughters and teach them how they should treat men? Because I feel like, women don't do that. I'm just going to say it. Women don't do it. Some people may get mad. Women, I have not seen or know of any women around me, not to say that everybody's doing it, but I don't know of many, if any, that are telling their daughters, hey, this is how you treat a man. I know some that's like, hey, this is how you get this out of a man, or this is how you get a man to do that. But in terms of really treating a man a certain way, in a relationship, or even, one day to be a husband, or to have a husband, like, this is how you treat your husband. This is how, you giving them game from that side, or like, have you approached that, or how do you approach it if you do?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the wording on this, but yes, I have definitely talked with my oldest one about that, because I'm just like, I've learned, probably definitely over the last few years, of like, it's definitely not something that I feel that the lessons that mothers are teaching their daughters in understanding that a man is more than just a provider, but he's also a person that has feelings, that has moods, that has good days and bad days, and understanding that part, and understanding that you need to create an environment that is safe, that he can be vulnerable, he can be open, he can be honest, and that's the way that you guys build your relationship, so that you guys are able to have this communication where everybody feels safe in this place. And as a man, he needs to feel just as safe in the relationship as the woman does. So I'm definitely talking to my daughters about that, and being transparent with myself, like, hey, I have days that I'm like this, and I need support and comfort. And I think that's definitely something that has assisted and helped with my relationship with my daughters, because as a father, in their eyes, dad is Superman. He's indestructible. He's invincible. My daughter told me one day, I didn't even think you had emotions. I didn't think that you cared, because I used to carry so much of it and not let anybody see what I'm dealing with, because at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm dad, and I got to take care of business. I got to do this. I got to make sure this is happening. I got to make sure this is taken care of. So I didn't show the stress or the hurt or any pain or my depressions that I had. But then when I started telling my daughter, like, hey, I deal with this stuff too. I deal with this, and this goes through my mind, and when this comes up, I feel like this. And when she starts to see that, oh, he is human, he does have feelings, and it made that difference. So now they treat me different as a father, where they're not just saying, okay, dad is just Superman and he don't care, and I can just bully him and beat him or treat him any old way. But now they actually, like, they're tender and they care, but they also see that I'm vulnerable, I'm open, and dad's not always as strong as he presents himself to be, but that doesn't mean that dad's still not going to take care of business. So I'm telling them, like, when you have a person that you're with, understanding this is how people are. You want to feel this way in your relationship. A man wants to feel this way in the relationship too. So understand that this is something that you need to foster in your relationship from the beginning. So I know my oldest, in her current relationship, that's something that she does with the guy that she's with. But I also tell her, hey, just don't be putting up with bullshit. That is something else. So as a father, I have to give her this information, but then I also have to let her know that there's a point in time where you have to pull back and say, hey, this ain't it. You just got to know where that line is that you can and you can't. But it's always an interesting thing being a dad, because if you was out there with a bunch of girls and stuff, you feel like the age old tells that you reap what you sow, because the God gives you daughters. If you used to be out there with a whole bunch of girls, so now I give my daughters game, hoping that they learn from it, so that when they deal with whatever boyfriend or guy that they with, they make smart decisions and they're not don't have the wool pulled over their eyes by just whatever shiny toy this dude is waving in front of them. So,
okay. Well, let me ask you this, because I like that, and I think that's I think it's very valuable to share that kind of knowledge and insight with them. How difficult was it for you to, take off the mask, take off the superhero cape, pull the S off your chest, and be vulnerable enough to show them that you have emotions and you deal with stuff? Because that's not part of what status quo or traditional masculinity involves, right? Manhood and being a man is typically perceived as being tough and impenetrable, and I can't I don't want my daughters to think I'm weak. I don't want my daughters to think this. Did you wrestle with any of that, or like how intentional are you now in terms of just letting them know, like, I'm a human with emotions, and I'm not just a man, but I'm a human, and so understand that I do have this and I do have needs as well. So
I think initially it wasn't such a tough part to share it with them. It was initially just a thing that I had to work out internally, because once I was honest with myself about it, it made it easier for me to be honest with other people about it. So also understanding that in order to get vulnerability, you have to give vulnerability. I can't expect somebody else to be open with me if I'm not going to be open with them. And I think that's a misconception that people have, not only as in parenting, but I think in relationships also, that we want people to be vulnerable and open with us, but we're not giving what we're requesting. So it kind of makes it hard to do that. It's like before you about to have some sex with somebody, you're going to have the other person get naked first, but you're going to be fully clothed, and that's supposed to be how it goes down. Like, nah, I'm going to need you to expose yourself as I'm exposing myself before we get into this situation. And looking at it in that aspect, it's like, I want them to be open, and I can't get them to be this way if I'm not willing to be that way. So I didn't wrestle with it too much with doing it, because at the end of the day, they know that their dad still is tough and strong, but dad also has a soft side to it. So it's just showing that there's more aspects to being a man than just being the protector and the provider.
I like that, because I think that's, again, like I said, I think it's very valuable that they understand that a man is multidimensional, and so, it's easy for most men just to have the burden of walking around with a dry face and a broken heart, and I, like I said, commend you and tip my hat to you for just being wise enough, one, to recognize that, hey, man, I need to show my children, not just your daughters, but show my children and my family all of me, because oftentimes we withhold parts of ourselves from folks, and we don't want them to see what we may feel is the ugly part, or what we may feel is this tender part. This we want people to see us the way that we want them to see us, and so sometimes we hide things or we withhold things, and like I said, I know that it takes a lot to get to the place where you're comfortable. I know some men that I've spoken to, have a hard time with that, and they struggle with that simply because they wanted, everybody in the household to perceive them as, always strong, always always on top. I want to be the person that can be counted on. And they, in their mind, they saw the fact that, you know, whatever might have been going on with them or whatever they might have been dealing with, they saw that as weakness. And so they, in turn, assumed that everybody else would see it that way. And it's one of those things where, like I said, I'm glad that you took the approach that you did, because I think it's so much more helpful for kids to see, you know, a well-balanced man and understand, like, the range of emotions that you have as a man. So I think that's wonderful, man. Thank you for not talking while I'm on your mustache.
Oh, you're welcome. I ain't about to mess that up.
Some people didn't want. Some people are like, hey.
I ain't about to talk about that at all. You ain't going to cut my mustache off.
Y'all ain't. You know what? We're going with a new style. Man, what happened to your stuff, Joe? Yeah. I had that happen to a guy before.
I ain't about to do that one, bro. But the one thing that I would probably have in those conversations with those guys is to define what masculinity is to them. Because I think we're stuck with this image that a man has to be stoic. He has to be quiet and he has to suffer in silence. And that's supposed to be the definition of what masculinity is. So each man has to redefine what masculinity is to him in order for him to adjust that. Because if you're stuck in this Stone Age mindset that I have to be this rock or this impenetrable fortress and I can't show any emotions or be vulnerable, then you got to check how you're really thinking what your definition of a man is or masculinity. Because if you're stuck on that, you'll never be open to change it and be different.
Well, I think you're 100% right. And, you know, I had a conversation earlier today and I was just expressing to someone that, you know, as a man, you get to choose what type of man you want to be, you know. And I had a previous episode, you know, what kind of man would I be? You know what I mean? And I asked a question like if you're picking qualities and things like that, attributes, and you're building, you know, the perfect man out, you know what I mean? What does that look like? You're building out your ideal version of you. What does that look like? And I don't think enough men take time to really think through, you know, consciously what characteristics and how they want manhood to look in their life. I think a lot of us just accept the early default conditioning that was given to us, you know, traditional, what I call pseudo masculinity bullshit, that is, you know, man always tough, can't have no emotions, you know, you're either mad, you know, some form of aggression, you know, happy, but it's got to be only when you're watching sports or something like that.
Right.
This limited, you know, range of an individual, and I think that, you know, the old, man is only as good as how many women he done slept with, you know, how many notches he got on his belt, how many chicks you done smashed, you know, all of this stuff that's like not productive at all, right?
Yeah.
You know, it can be part of the experience, but that doesn't make it the whole.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And I think that instead of just going along with status quo, it's like, nah, man, is this serving me? You know, being able to look at, you know, what you think manhood is and then define it for yourself in terms of, you know, do the beliefs I have about manhood serve me? Are they empowering me, or are they limiting me? Are they boxing me in and, you know, making me behave or act, think, or not be receptive to, you know, different things as a result of it?
And you know what, the key thing, one thing that just came to me in my mind was just is it giving you the desired outcomes? Because I think a lot of times people do things expecting for it to be one way, but they're not getting exactly what they expected out of it. And that's the same thing as parenting. It's like, is being a strict parent giving me the desired effect for my kid that I want? Is it creating the environment that I want them to feel safe and secure in? Is it providing closeness or a connection between the two of us? Does my child want to share their deep, dark secrets with me? If you have a suicidal child, they'll never come and talk to you if you're that overbearing parent that's always yelling and screaming at them but never listening to them. Are you getting out of it what you are desiring? And that masculinity, I'm just thinking like, there's a point in time where we had to be a certain way for our families due to the environment and world that we lived in. But we don't live in that world anymore. It's different. So with everything else that changes, technology changes, cars change, the materials that we use and how we use them changes. As people, we need to adapt and change also. And we've got to start looking at what we're doing. Is it really providing and presenting us with what we desire it to be?
So I think you just said a mouthful. And I had that conversation with a gentleman a couple weeks ago. And we were just, speaking and talking to that and understanding that, the standard, for a father, the standard for a man was different at different times. And so, again, I don't necessarily, I'm not quick to say what's right or what's wrong as much as what's necessary for the conditions and the situation, the times that we're presently living in. You know what I mean? Because if you go and you're trying to operate off of, some standard of manhood from, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you're probably going to come up short, man. There are some things that may be timeless and classic and every man needs to know this and have this in their arsenal, in their tool bag or whatever as a resource, but there are also some things that are very, very outdated. Like you said, they only served at that time. At one point, just being a provider was enough to qualify as a good father, as a good man, right? And that was partly because it was so hard to be able to provide, to get a job, to do this. And so if you were a man that actually, could provide for your family, could take care of your family, that was seen as like the trophy. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, that's the pinnacle right there. You killing it. You doing your thing,
Yeah.
You don't have to be present. You don't have to check in with your kids. You don't have to connect with them emotionally. You don't have to do any of that stuff. The fact that you bring it home, the bacon, you know what I'm saying, is enough. And we have evolved and we've matured, greatly since those times, and I think our children are evolving and requiring so much more of us than, that basic stuff, man.
Yeah, they do. Is having to keep up with the time. The internet provides TV, radio, music, movies. It provides so much information that we have got to now tailor the way that we respond and react, because what our parents grew up with and our grandparents grew up with is not what we're dealing with. So now we have to adjust and we have to change. You can't survive without it, which is really strange in how people find that it is more worthwhile to become highly educated and get that information, but they don't take the same time as in their emotional intelligence.
Okay. Okay. So now you got me thinking, man. Chin up slightly. So this is a question I asked earlier, and curious to see what you think about it. Is what you saying that they're willing to invest all of this, but not in their emotional intelligence, right? They're not in their, self-development. Is parenting more about what you do and don't do for your kids, or is it more about your personal development and growth?
It's both. Because the thing about it is that as they grow, we're growing. And as I grow, they grow. I feel like as my job is as a parent is always to prepare my child to be better than me in whatever aspect that is, whether it's emotionally, dealing with day-to-day problems, whether it's career-wise, if it's financially. What I'm doing for the kid is to prepare her for being better than how I am. So I can't expect the same tools that I use to work on her the same way. So it is kind of a trial and error situation. And each child, you can have 4 kids. They all be from the same 2 parents and all of them be different. You have to talk and treat each one of them differently. So it has to be the same way in providing this life experience to them. We just have to tailor it for how it's going to work for each one and talk to them in that same way. So that goes back to being emotionally smart and in tune to what this child is needing and observing and listening to them. I think a lot of parents do a lot more talking to their kids than actually listening and hearing their children. Mm-hmm. And that hampers the parents' ability to grow and learn. Because I think we are in a mindset that we think that because I'm the parent, the learning is one way. And that's coming from me to you. Not understanding that I can learn too from you. Mm-hmm. And we've got to understand that it's an exchange between the two of us. So that's why I say it's both of us.
Mm-hmm. So I think you answered my question.
I hope I did.
I think you answered it because, and I think I understand. Let me just, tell me if I'm getting this right. You're saying both of us, as in both you and the child must be growing.
Correct.
Okay, and so my question was, really directed towards just as a parent, because I don't think a lot of parents grow. I think parents stop. I think it's assumed that the child is going to grow and the child's going to continue to mature. However, the parent, oftentimes parents that I've seen, parents that I've spoken to tend to take the approach that they don't have to grow anymore. Almost like somebody graduating from high school and feel like, hey man, I don't need no other degree. I don't need nothing else. I done did this. That's enough. I can get through. And as time goes on, you understand it. Like, no, there's more required. Now we're at a stage where a college degree isn't enough. Mm-hmm. You may have to have your master's. You may have to have a doctorate. You may have to have extra certifications. And I think all of that, I say all of that to kind of equate it to, parenting. I think as adults and individuals, just in general, we always have to be committed to self-growth, because as you're growing, your best or your ability to pour into your kids continues to expand.
Right.
And if you are not invested in your own personal growth and development, it's a lot of stuff that you may be able to do for your child But the effect and the impact that you have may not be as great as it could be, simply because you're limited in how you see the world. But if you're evolving and you're growing, it seems to me that you stand a better chance of offering your child more of the things that are going to help them be better than you.
Big facts. And as you're saying, is in all of this that you're saying, that there's more education that's needed, or you need more than just the bachelor's. You need a master's. You need certifications. You need experience. Why is it that we only want to limit ourselves in growing in our careers, but not as a person and as emotionally, mentally, personally take the same approach and invest in ourselves to become better people? We never stop learning. You got to think about it. Even if you don't actively learn, when your body starts to change, the older you get, you learn to make adjustments to how your body's responding. If you wake up with back pains or your legs are hurting, you now learn a new way to get up out of your bed to maneuver from one place to another. You didn't think like that before, but now you're able to learn something different. Our bodies is constantly changing. Our minds is changing. The world is changing. Why do we feel that we need to stop growing as people? Because that we've gotten to a certain place. That's just one spot, but there's still more to it. There's still more life. I'm not dead, and I'm going to continue learning until. And where I'm learning from is everywhere and everybody. That's when we can't limit ourselves to where we're getting this information and experience from, because education and knowledge is everywhere. It's just whether or not you're open to receive it the way it's coming and where it's coming from. You can learn a good lesson from a dummy.
That's a fact.
I tell folks all the time, like, wisdom doesn't always come from a smart person.
That's often true.
So look, don't stop yourself from, boy, that thing look good right there, buddy. I'm just saying, things look real nice.
I'm trying to get in the bag a little bit.
Man, I'm trying to tell you right now, if I was hunting, we'd be hunting. But that's it. I don't know why there's a place where people are unwilling to continue their growth. We want to encourage everybody else to grow, but why do we want to limit our own growth? Why we tell everybody else, you can keep doing it, you got it, you can do more, you can be more, but then we don't allow ourselves to be more, to do more, to learn more.
So what I'll say is this, man. With that being said, give me your final thoughts and message to, fathers that may be, experiencing challenges in that area, or just some words of wisdom that you may give to another father or a young father or expecting father, to kind of culminate everything that you've said, because you've given a lot of great points and tips and just your overall approach to parenting.
To fathers, parents, I would look at how do you want your relationship to be with your kids? Or what do you want to experience and share with them? If you're looking for them to listen to your direction, you have to listen to them also. We can't expect, not with these new kids. These new kids aren't ones that just take it. They're just not going to take the information, and you're not going to give them something. If you're not going to give them anything, they're not going to just take it. It's going to always be a fight. We've got to slow down, listen to them, and talk with them, and understand that we're here to guide, provide information and wisdom from our experience, but then also understand that our kids have their own life and their own experience. They may not want to do the same thing that we've done, and we've got to allow them to do that, to experience life on their own, to get to the place that they're going to be. So don't take this personally as in parenting as if they don't do right or they fail, it's my fault, because they make their own choices and decisions. But what we're here to do is provide them the information to help them pass the test of life. We're not going to take the test for them, but we're here to give them the knowledge and experience so that they can do good in life. So that's the way that it should be approached, is that we're teaching. We're not taking life for them or doing life for them, but we're teaching them lessons so that they can do life for themselves.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughts, man. Thank you for another cut and conversation.